Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
So now you're going to know about how the Kubernetes works, right? How the Kubernetes works, Kubernetes architecture. So basically how Kubernetes will bring happiness, health, and wealth to everyone. So that is an important question which we are going to answer now, correct? Because you should know how come this tool can be so magical and do all this stuff. So we should know, right? So let's get started. So guys, it's a very important session, and I must tell you here is if you miss this session and if you do not understand this session, then you will be always using a Kubernetes with the mindset of like, I don't know this, but still I'm using it. I don't know how it works, but still I'm using it. I don't know why this is behaving like that, but still I'm using it. Command is working fine, it's success, but I don't know why it is working. So you'll be having this question in your mind all the time, because I'm telling you, these commands and all, it's damn simple. One command will do the so many things actually in Kubernetes, but how that command was working, what and all it did it, you have to understand that, and for that you have to focus on this session. Okay, so Kubernetes big picture view. So in the last session, what I said is Kubernetes is an orchestrator for container orchestrator, Kubernetes container orchestrator. But we will see that today in a little bit different perspective. Okay, different perspective. So guys, here Kubernetes is an orchestrator for microservices app also. So if you are not understanding what I'm saying, so for that you have to forget about the Kubernetes, understand the microservice. So anyone would like to add some microservices? What is a microservices? What is a microservices? Anyone? So here Kubernetes is an orchestrator for microservice app. But what is a microservices? I don't know. So guys, one thing which we know is in the world of microservices, we have hundreds and hundreds of microservices. Look at the feature. Okay, I'll put it in this way. In MS Office, which you use in your desktop right now, how many features you have? 100 features, or maybe 150 features in MS Office. Bold, italic, H1, H2, H3, table, this, that. So many features you have, right? So in the world of microservices, what we do is like divide all this feature into the service itself. Okay, I'm not teaching you microservices. It's a different topic altogether. Okay, but right now I'm asking is, when you have a microservices, so many microservices, not like you should not say web server is a microservices, app server is a microservice, database server is a microservice. No, it's SOA, service oriented architecture. I'm talking about it when you migrate to the microservices architecture of the software, and in that case you will have 100 services, 150 services, 50 services. So who will manage those microservices? Imagine, who will manage? There should be, because I cannot remember 50 URL. Let me ask you one thing. Instead of giving the one URL, if I give you 50 URL to use that all this functionality, will you use it? No. So I need someone who can manage all the microservices. I repeat, I need someone who can manage all the microservices for me. Who will do that? So we need our orchestrator here also. We need a service orchestrator here also, microservice orchestrator here also. And using that orchestrator, anyone can send a request and anyone can get a response, anyone. So I don't have to talk to service A, service B, service C, service 100. I can talk to orchestrator, and that will help me to send a request to service, request and response. So let's understand in this way. Look at this here. This is one of the ground, football ground, soccer ground, and we have a team also. You know that very well. Now let's say what is the objective of the team player? Anyone would like to comment on it? Say if you must be playing the football at some point of time. In fact, some of you must be playing now itself. We have a decathlon, right? There we play football, right? On an hourly basis. So what is the goal? What is the goal of each player of your football or soccer team? What is the goal?
Winning.
Winning. Okay. Anything else?
And make a goal.
Make a goal. So sir, if you have a objective, each one of the player has an objective to make a goal, then each of these player will be near to the goal post, because your goal is to make a goal. That's all. Your goal is to make a goal, so you'll be near to the goal post. Simple. But that is not how we win the game. That is not how we play the game. That is where the manager is coming into the picture. That is where the coach is coming into the picture. That is where the master is coming into the picture. In my childhood days, we used to pronounce our teacher as a master G. That is where the master used to come into the picture. Manager, coach comes in the picture. And manager says, master says, manager and coach says, listen, I know each one of your capabilities. I know what you can do, what you cannot do, what you are good at for. So do as I say and play as I say, else I'll throw you out of the ground. So now, with the manager's help, with the coach helps, with the master's helps, every player started playing in a certain ways. So here, remember here, the goal is to not make a goal. Goal is not to make a goal. The goal is to just pass your ball to your nearest player as fastest as possible. So see here, at the strike end point, you have only 2 players, and rest of the players is just playing with the ball as fastest. It's like a coordination. See, they are not running from one place to another place. Only ball should run, because you cannot run faster than ball. Ball can run faster than you. So you keep passing the balls, and those team who passes the ball effectively, fastest way to their own teammates wins. Coordination well wins. This is the goal. So everyone has a goal, different goal, right? This is happening because of whom? Because of master, because of manager, because of coach. Okay. So now convert these players into microservices. Microservices, you have hundreds of microservices. Each microservices is having their own property, their own qualities, but required some guidance, required some control. For what? Request and response. See, passing a ball, you can convert into the request and response. Okay. So each of this player is having certain microservices. Some of these are HTTP microservices, some of these are search microservices, some of these are auth, some of these are this, some of these are that. So the question is, these are the microservices which is running in a cluster and talking to each other with a certain guidelines controlled by Kubernetes. Controlled by Kubernetes. So that's the reason I've been telling you Kubernetes is an orchestrator for microservices as well. I said microservices, service, microservice, hundreds of microservices, which way they should behave to each other, that is controlled by microservices. And let me remind you, these services is running in a different node of your cluster, but still the behavior is same. So if you look at this image here, load balance, HTTPS service only is specific to HTTPS service. HTTPS service is running in the node 1 and node 2, but still they are talking to auth only and search only. Behavior never changes irrespective of which node you are running. How come? Because of Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is a orchestrator for microservice which may be running in any node, but the behavior will not change. Still you are passing the ball to each other with a certain guidelines governed by Kubernetes. Passing a ball means request and response, governed by Kubernetes. Okay, so that's the reason also we call it Kubernetes an orchestrator for the microservices. So if you want to migrate it from SOA to microservices, Kubernetes is the best solutions for you. So with that, what is a Kubernetes architecture? So guys, in the Kubernetes we have a cluster and we deploy our packages to the cluster. So if you look at this image here, we have one Kubernetes cluster, KX cluster, and in the cluster you have a master node, node. 6 node is there, right, left side, and in middle we have a master. If you see that replicas you have 3 masters, you have it, and master is getting some packages deployed from outside. So if I look at this image here, if I understand that in the Kubernetes cluster you have master node, worker node. Node, you call it worker node, whatever it is. So master and node, multiple nodes are there, node 1 2 3 4 5 6. Master is also a node. Master, each of these are a VMs actually. Node is also VM, master is also VM. 3 master VM is there because of replicas, and 6 nodes are there. Okay, so Kubernetes cluster, when you configure, it has a master and worker, node. So what is the job of the master? Master is in charge and node is doing the real work. When you say work means what? Work means running a container. Work means running a container. And who's managing all this stuff? Master. In the Kubernetes, all this together, it's called Kubernetes cluster. Now look at this very carefully here. Node has a pod icon. Look at it very carefully. And inside a pod, there is a container. So now you see here, we understand what is a node. We understand what is a container. But what is a pod? I don't know. What is a pod? I don't know. But one thing I know for sure is pod is inside a node, and inside a pod you have a container. Will you remember, all of you? See, what is a pod? I don't know. But one thing I know for sure is pod you can have inside a node, and inside a pod you can have a container. Will you remember? Please say in the chat box or through audio. Will you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah. And then deployment packages we send to the master who's in charge, and node is doing the real work. So this is the architecture. Well, let's complicate master. Only focus on the master now. Okay, master node. So masters, it can have multiple masters. We call it the Kubernetes control plane also. The Kubernetes control plane. So what is a master? Look at it. Master manages the multiple node. Look at this here. Master, which is in Linux, has to be in a Linux. Master node, which manages the multiple node, worker node. And node also, as per the image, if you look at it, it's in Linux, but node can be Windows 2019 plus also, because I told you, right, Docker is supported with Windows 2019 plus. So this image has to be changed. So node has to be master Linux, or it can be Windows 2019 plus also, but master has to be Linux alone. Okay, here you see master has 4 component. Master server, master node has a 4 component. We'll discuss this one in some time, but 4 component, please remember. because you remember master is in charge of your cluster, and if you have one master and if that goes offline, entire cluster will become unstable. Entire cluster would become unstable. So for that, what we do, you can have a multiple master also. So if one master is not working, second master will take place and do the things on behalf of the first master. So that's we call it HA, high availability. So you may have a 3 master, up to the 3 master. 5 masters also depends on you. 3 masters is too much actually for the production, but it has to be always in odd, 3, 5, 7, something like that. Okay, so multi master HA is possible. Now look at this image, very important image. All of you, please focus. Now we know that master has a 4 component. Master is in Linux. Master manages the node. Node can be Windows and Linux. Here, if I see very carefully, node has a pod left side. Okay, fine. But here in this case, node has a pod has a 2 container. Last time I saw the 1 container, now we have 2 container. That means what I understood is, what is a pod? I don't know, but one thing I know for sure is a node have a pod, and pod you may have 1 container or 2 container. Wonderful. If you go and travel right side of the image, look at this here. Node you have a 2 pod, and each pod you have 1 container. So what I'm trying to understand here is, I don't know what is a pod for sure, but here if I look at the image here, different image, I see that node you may have 1 pod or you may have a multiple pod. Please hear me out clearly. Node you may have a 1 pod or you may have a multiple pod, and a pod you may have a 1 container or you may have a multiple container. Yeah, but still we don't know what is a pod, but whatever the knowledge we have got, we have discussed so far. And master has a 4 important component. So let's focus on master server, master node, master which manages your worker node, which manages your cluster, who's in charge of your cluster. Let's understand they have a 4 major component. And the first component, which we call it, is API server. What is API server? So guys, typically we call it a front end to the control plane. Front end means if you want to send any communications, okay, to the cluster, you interact with front end. That means you interact with API server. If you want to send any communication to cluster from outside or from inside, I repeat, please hear me out clearly. If you want to send any instructions, any request, any communication to the cluster from outside or from inside, you simply send to API server. So API server is a front end. Everything has to be sent through API server. Again, when you discuss about API server, please dissect this word, actually divide this word API server, API and space server. So basically, when you look at this component, don't consider this as a one function. API server is itself is hosting multiple API. Please hear me out clearly. API server itself is hosting multiple API. That means whatever the capability Kubernetes has it's here in form of API. An API server represents that APIs, multiple APIs endpoints. Okay, so Kube API server is a collection of APIs, all the functionality it contains in form of APIs, which we call it a front end to the control plane, and you can expose this is exposed at the REST APIs, and if you want to send any communication, if you want to send any request to API server, you always send in a form of JSON. That means API server consume JSON file. Okay, so I hope you understood this is the first and most important component of master node API server. All the functionality whatever Kubernetes has, it is exist in the API server in form of APIs. That means API server contains multiple APIs, and each API has a certain features. I repeat, API server is a collections of multiple APIs, and each APIs has certain feature which you can access through the API server, and this is exposed through the REST APIs. And if you want to send the communications to API server, you have to send in form of JSON only. Are you understanding all of this, guys? Are you understanding?
Yes.
Wonderful. Second component we have, typically we call it a cluster store. Cluster store means the component which stored every data of your cluster, all the data. When I'm not saying your application data, I remember, I repeat, I'm not saying it's your application data. All I'm saying is the cluster data. Cluster stored is a collection, is a storage, persistent storage for the cluster state and configuration. That means anything which is related to the cluster configuration, anything which is related to the cluster state. State means information which is having right now, or which you desire, or which you want to have it. All this thing will be stored in the cluster store. So which is empowering this cluster store? How is being empowered? Which database? Is it a MySQL? Is it a MS SQL? Is it Oracle? Is it a Postgres? Is it a MongoDB? No. Cluster store is empowered powered by etcd. Etcd is a open source solution kind of database which store the data in a key and value format. It is a distributed, consistent, watchable, and this is a source of truth for the cluster. That means if something which you have in the cluster, which you have seen in the cluster, is here, if it is not here, that is not exist in the cluster. Simple. So this is the, because of this is the only persistent storage for the cluster, you have to have a backup plan for it. You need to have a backup plan for it. That's a second component of the master node, master server of your Kubernetes cluster. Third component, please read it out. It's called controller manager. What is a controller manager? Forget about the manager right now. What is the definition of controller? Controller means control something, and here it's a manager. That means controller manager is one component which has a multiple controller. I repeat, please hear me out. Controller manager contains multiple controller, and each controller control one thing in your cluster. One thing, one controller, one thing, two controller, two thing, 10 controller, 10 things. So all this controller, I'll put it together and inside a controller manager. So what kind of controller this are doing? So node controller, endpoint controller, namespace controller. So what, in a simple way, if I want to tell you, let's say one controller will keep checking this worker is connected, this worker is connected, this worker is connected, this worker is connected, this worker is connected or not, connected or not, connected or not, connected or not, and this kind of things will be doing. So this will be running in the loop. Controller runs in the loop, never ending. The moment the controller stop running, that means that's not stable. So different kind of controller. Someone is checking the node connectivity with the master cluster. Someone is checking the number of pods which you want to deploy. Many different kind of controllers are available, but contains inside a controller manager. So what controller manager is doing? Watches for the changes in the cluster. I repeat, it watches for the changes, but where? In a cluster, and helps a cluster to maintain the desired state. So again, if you look at the arrow, Cluster stored also talk to the API server. Controller also talk to the API server. Everyone talk to API server. I repeat, API server is the front end for the Kubernetes cluster. For the every communication, external, internal, it is passed through the API server. And API server is not only one component. It has a multiple APIs exposed. That's the reason we call it a server of API, API server. Please understand that. And here, when I say controller manager, it's not a one component. It has a multiple controller checks. Each controller checks one thing and runs in the loop. And what exactly they are doing? Controller manager is like a kind of monitoring tool, you can say, which keep informing the API server about the state of the changes which is happening in the cluster. That means if the controller manager will stop working, you don't know what is happening in your cluster. It's very important component. Now, last one is scheduler. Last one is scheduler. So what is the job of the scheduler? So scheduler always keep watching API server, but for what? For any work, if API server instructs scheduler to do that, scheduler keep watching the API server and get a work. Get a work means get a work for new pod. What is a pod? I don't know, but we discuss few things. So scheduler keep watching the API server for the new pod, and the moment the API server give a request to scheduler, immediately scheduler assign. Remember, scheduler assign the work, not doing the work. It is assigning to work to the node, and it has affinity, anti-affinity, constraint, and resources. Anti-affinity and affinity means scheduler will assign a work to the node, any node which is available as per their default rules. That's called anti-affinity. But when you say, oh no, this pod I want to run inside only this node, that's called affinity. That means you have to specify this pod you want to create under which node. That's called affinity. Constraint means you specify this pod has to be created in a node of labeled with this one or this much of CPU or this architecture or this operating system. That's called constraint and resources. So yes, scheduler keep watching the API server for what? Request of what? Pod. If request received, scheduler assign the work to the node, and by following all these rules. So scheduler is scheduler, simple. All these four components coming together, when we call it a master, we call it a cluster control plane. Okay, all this four component. Okay, so now let's look at this four component use one more time in a quickest way. So here we have, why is going fast, so here we have API server. API server means server of multiple APIs, which has all the functionality whatever you have in a Kubernetes is there here in form of API. I repeat, all the functionality what you have in the all the services, all the features what you have in a Kubernetes, what it can serve you means you end user, is there in the API server in form of APIs. How can you access it? Through API server. So API server is the front end to the control plane, exposes the APIs, REST APIs through, and it consume all base JSON. Any external internal communications is happening through API server alone. What is the second component? Storage, cluster storage. So everything is stored about the cluster is stored here. Everything. This is a persistent storage for the cluster, storing the cluster state and configuration file, powered by etcd. Etcd itself is a distributed, consistent, watchable. Whatever you have here is there in the cluster. Whatever you don't have here is not there in the cluster. You need to have a backup plan for it. You need to back it up. Controller manager is like a monitoring tool for the entire cluster. It keep monitoring everything in the cluster, but through what? Controller. Controller is like a kind of things which is running in the loop to check and inform the API server. Okay, and scheduler basically watches the API server for the new request. If new request has received, it received it, assigned work to the node based on the affinity, anti-affinity, constraint, and resources. This is called master. Now let's understand this. So tell me, she's my favorite actress. So if I see that human face, consider this as a master for the body or master for the world. Tell me which will act like a API server, which receive all the communication from inside and outside.
To watch our complete session, enroll for our premium membership. Click onto the join button and enroll yourself with the best suited option.
I mean, which will act like a API server. Guys, receive the request. Where the storage happens. Cluster store etcd. What is a controller? Controller manager. Always validate the, keep monitoring the whole world. Two controllers are there. And which is a scheduler? Receive, store, validate, schedule. Are you understanding this? How this function? Kubernetes cluster? All of you?
Yes.
Simple. So guys, this is a very important component, master, which is managing your data center. So you have to understand very well. So master, a control plane components, API server, which is central, simple, restful, and updates the etcd. Cluster stored, persistent state, stored in the key and value format, powered to etcd, watchable. Scheduler watches the API server for scheduling the pod. It has a resource constraint and respect the constraints, all stuff. Controller manager, which runs in the loop, controller runs in the loop, helps you to maintain the functions, and desired state watches and update the API server and replica sets. So now let's little bit elaborate the architecture. So look at this here, guys. In the master, you have a 4 component. Scheduler through the API server, again talk to the node. Node, you have a pod, you have a container, which we have discussed so far. Now who's controlling the API server? Who's sending a request to the API server? You send request from your laptop. In your laptop, what you have? Look at the screen. In your laptop, what you have? You have a kubectl. And the JSON file which you created, you will have to create a JSON file package, that's called package. You write it, you send it to the API server. API server stored in the cluster stored. Controller manager report back to the state of the cluster in the worker. And if it is mismatch, scheduler do the work based on the instruction from API server. So this is a little bit elaborated format of Kubernetes cluster. Did you understand that? Can we discuss now the worker? All of you?
Yes.
Okay. So now guys, let's focus on the right side of the component, which we call it worker node. Okay. So let's get started. So guys, what we call, you can call it a nodes, aka minions, or aka Kubernetes worker, whatever you want to call it. I call it worker. You can call it a node also. By the way, master node is also a node or a minions. Okay. So guys, how many of you have seen the Minions movie? Anyone would like to tell me? How many of you have seen the Minions movie? Please tell me.
Yeah.
No, you guys have not seen the Minions movie?
I saw it.
I have watched.
Okay, great. Can you please tell me the story of Minions?
It is searching for the master from the beginning. Those are end up with the group.
Right.
Actor.
Yeah. It's a good movie, guys. You must watch today. It's available everywhere on Netflix also, Prime also, I guess is available. Yeah. So guys, I'm saying the worker node is behaving as if it's like a minions, or nodes is also behaving like a minions. It's the same name, nodes, a minions, a Kubernetes worker. So let me talk about the movies first. So in the movie Minions, You have one species, which is, we call it a minions. Okay, the species, they got up and they become sad. Why they are sad? Because they are sad because they feel like they don't have any master, because these minions is this kind of species which is sad without a master. That means minions need master all the time to become happy. So they look for the masters. They look for the master. They travel the whole world, look for the masters, and they request the master, hey master, please make me your minions, make me your slave. Remember, if the master is saying, okay, you can be my slave, then minions get happy, become happy, and then minions become happy and they keep bugging a master. Master, I am alive. I am alive for you. I'm ready to serve you. Give me the work. I can do anything for you to make you happy. Remember, master will give the work only if they have it, right? So master give the work only if they have it. If minions get the work, minions complete the work and then finish, and then immediately report back to saying that to the master, saying, the master, I've completed my work. Give me more work. Something like that. So this is the relationship between the master and minions. But in the movie, there are some climax also, by the way. They kill the masters some by mistake through some accident, then again become sad, then again they look for the masters. They travel the new century, from the old century to new century, keep searching, and so much of good excitement. It's a good movie, actually. You must watch. Actually, it's a cartoon movie, basically. I mean, it's animated movie. So why I'm discussing about it, whatever the behavior I said and I talked about the minions, it's same applicable for the worker node. Yes, in a cluster of thousands of machines, if it's lying like that, there's no use of that cluster, the node, the virtual machine. You have just created the VM, but it's not serving to some purpose, some goal, as long as he's become a slave of the master. So yes, if you want the minions to be happy, the nodes to be happy, the workers to be happy and performing some work, it has to be part of the slave of master, some master. So what is happening? Same thing. Kubernetes worker gets up. Gets up means, Kubernetes worker gets up means you start the VM, simple word. Then they look for the master. Look for the master means, in the Kubernetes node, there is one utility which runs, which we call it a kubelet. I'll talk about it in some time. That runs and that look for the master. Where the whole world? No, whole world for the worker is the same machine. Actually, they look for the everything in the same machine. Look for the address of the master. Address of the master, remember, address of the master is API server. API server is your master. Everything is received or sent by API server. So they look for the master. So basically kubectl gets up. The moment you boot the machine, kubectl start running. Kubectl read one file where the address of the master is there. kubectl request, hey, I want to be part of your cluster. I want to become a part of your purpose, so I can serve your request. Master will approve it. If master is not approving that, he's not a part of the cluster, but master approves it. And the moment master approves it, this worker minions keep bugging a master. Hey master, I am having this much of CPU, this much of RAM. I'm having only 2 pods running. Give me more work to assign. More work I will do, and I'll finish and I'll report back to you. It's like that. So same thing on that same storyline, guys. Look at the worker architecture. Worker node, master, worker node, minions node, or you call it a node. This has a 3 component: kubelet, Docker engine, and kubeproxy. So what is the kubelet? So guys, kubelet is your minion, basically. I said, right? Kubelet, the kubelet, each worker node, you have a kubelet. You need to have a kubelet. Each worker node, you need to have a kubelet. What is a kubelet? It's just a one tool, agent, and which is running. So here, this is the main Kubernetes agent which is running. The moment it runs, it registered node with the cluster. That means it request the self node with the cluster, and that once this request to become a part of the cluster is approved, it keep watches the API server, keep bugging the API server, and if they get a request In a kubernetes, you have a scheduler which requests to the kubelet only. Remember, so if they get a request, kubelet immediately instantiate a pod. I said instantiate a pod. I'm not saying creating a pod. Remember, there is a difference between instantiation and creation. Anyone would like to tell me what is the difference between instantiation and creation?
Create an instance of something is instantiation.
Yeah.
And creating is like something new or building.
Yeah. So I'll put it in this way, probably my way. So here, remember, create is something which is physical entity. Human can experience it. For example, if you create a physical machine, if you have a physical machine, you can experience it. You can log in, you can start, you can reboot, you can go inside, you can access from the outside through the network. When you create a VM also, this is a physical entity. You experience the VM, you work inside a VM from outside a VM. When you create a container, the container is also physical entity. You can run the application inside it, you can go inside a container, you can come out of inside. But pod is not a physical entity. You cannot go inside a pod. Yes, I've been telling you, container is inside a pod, but pod is not a physical entity. It's a virtual entity. I mean, you cannot, you know that pod is exist inside the container is exist inside the container. Container is exist inside the pod, but pod you cannot go inside it. You cannot access from outside it. It's like this. Okay, so that's the reason we call it instantiation of the pod. Okay, instantiation, not a creation. Okay, so there's a little bit of theoretical differences are there. Okay, so pod is a virtual entity. You cannot experience it, but it is exist. Okay, something like a space. Something like space. We all know that the planet Earth is inside a space. We all are on the planet Earth, but space is something which we know that is exist, but we cannot use it. You cannot experience it. You cannot go inside a space. You cannot come outside of the space. It exists, but you cannot experience it. I mean, you cannot touch it. It's like that. You can touch a planet Earth. You can touch your laptop, but you cannot touch space because you are inside a space. It's something spiritual, right? I mean, are you getting my points? So something like that. So instantiate a pod in the same way. So we'll discuss about the pod in detail a little bit later. But yes, we are discussing about the kubelet. Kubelet is the agent. Kubelet is your minion. The behavior of kubelet is the same way as I have discussed about the minions. And report back to the master. Whatever the work you get it, kubelet get it, complete it, instantiate a pod, and report back to the master. Master, I have completed my work. Give me more work. And kubelet can be accessible on the port number on each node on 10255. So guys, what I'm trying to say here is, if you want to add, please hear me out this statement very clearly. If you want a node, worker node, if you want any virtual machines or any physical machines to be a part of the Kubernetes cluster, I repeat, if you want any virtual machines or any physical machines to be a part of the cluster, inside that VM or inside a physical machine, you have to run the kubelet, and you have to register that kubelet with the master and get approval. That's all. So the moment that machine is added to the cluster, Kubernetes can assign a work to that particular VM or particular physical machine. Did you understand the conceptually what is the kubelet and what is the significance of the kubelet? All of you? All of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next one is a Docker engine, and I think all of you know very well. Docker engine is the component which you know very well. So you have worked with it. Docker engine, pulling the images, starting and stopping the containers. It can be Rocket also. The advantage of Kubernetes is like it can be Rocket also. Third component what you have is a kubeproxy. So guys, I hope you remember in the last session while discussing about what is Kubernetes and why we need a Kubernetes, I said there is one challenging with a container, I mean containers networking. Do you remember? How many of you remember that challenges with the networking with a container? All of you? So do you remember that containers, if you have two Apache containers which you are running, you cannot expose at the same port, so cannot be accessible by load balancer, correct? So that's the limitation of with container technology while scaling up. So that is solved by kube proxy. So kube proxy itself is a huge topic. We'll discuss a little bit in detail third day, not today. But this is the third component which each one of these nodes you have it. So what exactly this is doing? So basically kube proxy, with the help of kube proxy only, each pod get IP address. I repeat, in the world of Kubernetes, not a container, but pod get IP address. See, please understand that pod is a logical entity, not a physical entity. That's the reason we call it an instantiation of pod. Never say create of pod. But kube proxy is the component which you can find in each worker node, each minions node, and the primarily job of kube proxy is to assign IP address to the pod. And in a pod you may have a 1 or 2 or 3 containers, whatever it is. So all the container of that particular pod share the same IP because of kube proxy. And kube proxy is the only one, is the component which basically create your load balancer and helping you the load balancer, the pod in a service. So this we'll discuss a little bit later, but for time being you can understand Kubernetes proxies in networking services. You want to understand that what is a proxy? Please understand that here. Proxy means proxy. So here is a Bob. Okay, left side. I start with the left side. Bob ask. Sorry, let's start with the LS. Yeah. So LS ask Bob, what is the current time? Now LS cannot reach to the Bob directly. So LS have used the proxy. And proxy is asking Bob. Not LS is asking Bob directly. Proxy is asking Bob, hey Bob, tell me what is your current time. Bob responded to proxy, not a LS. The time is 7 p.m. And proxy responded to the LS. Bob says the time is 7 p.m. So this is the 7 p.m. So basically here we have a kube proxy. This is doing the same work. When you want to talk to the container, you don't talk to the container directly through the networking because it's not possible, because you know the limitation of the container on the host network. You cannot expose the two same container with the same port on the same host. You cannot do that. So for that we use a proxy. So here, whenever load balancer wants to reach out to the container, then they talk to the proxy, and proxy talk to the container. Container respond to the proxy, and proxy respond to the load balancer. This is how it is working. Are you understanding or not, guys?
So within a pod, if 3 containers say, and if the port is exposed as the same port, say if the 8080 has been exposed in all the 3 containers, so that is possible with pod, right? Which is not possible with in a Docker environment. The code that is
Sorry,
outside.
I missed the question. Can you please tell me here?
Okay. So you said inside a Docker container, every container should have a unique port which is being exposed outside. Because it comes from the Docker host. Here in a pod, even the port is unique across the containers of a pod. So if I have a 3 containers with the same 80
No. It cannot be. It cannot be. In a pod, if you have a 2 container, two Apache container inside a pod, you cannot have it because of, you know
Okay.
that.
Right,
I'll
right.
put it in this way. I'll put it in this way to simplify the scenarios for everyone. Can you run two Apache on 80 port in your laptop? No. Can you run two Apache 80 port inside your VM? No. Can you run two Apache 80 port inside your container? No. So can you run, last point, can you run two Apache container on 80 port inside a pod? No. Understand that?
Right, right. But to the outside world, the pod can have one port which will be same when you look at the container, right? Say for example, internally it will be 81 and 80, but from the pod it will look like 80 itself. Is that possible?
No, that's not possible, because here what happens, pod get
Hmm.
IP address. Here I mentioned here, look at my screen here. It's not going up, just a second, hold on. So here what happens, proxy assign the pod, proxy assign a IP address to pod. So that means if you have a three container, please repeat, I'm repeating, proxy
Hmm.
assign the IP address to the pod. So if you have a three container inside a pod, you know, all three container share the same IP address. That means one container is running on 80, second container is running on 81, third container is running on 82. How can you access from outside? Pod IP address :80, :81, :82.
Right. Got it.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, that's the job of the proxy. Again, networking topic is pending. We will discuss in detail little bit later, but this is just for the understanding purpose. Why we need a proxy? Simple. Kubernetes has this rule outside. Kubernetes has made, Kubernetes has published this side. What is the requirement? Kubernetes says, see, when we scale the container, we get a problem. What problem? We discuss about it. We get a problem. So to solve the problem here, what we need to do is all pods, please hear me out. You are running a pods in a cluster, right? Multiple node. So here what Kubernetes is saying, all pods can communicate with each other on all nodes, means across the node. It should be possible. All nodes can communicate with all the pods inside that cluster. Mind it here.
Akash,
All nodes
internet
also.
என்ன யூஸ் பண்ணி இந்த வேணாம் சொல்ற அப்பா என்ன யூஸ் பண்ணி இந்த பாரு
Sir, I
ரொம்ப
can
slow.
understand only Hindi and English. What is your question? Hello? Okay, I think missed that. Okay, so here Kubernetes has a published their specification for the networking to solve the networking problem with the Docker. So what he's saying, all pods can communicate with each other on all nodes. All nodes can communicate with all pods inside the cluster and no natting. So because the proxy, with the help of some driver and some policies, which is helping this and making it possible. So what is a proxy? So proxy, is the Kubernetes network proxy runs on each node. This reflects services as a defined in the Kubernetes API on each node. Now, what is the services? This is the one question mark. I'll leave these questions to be answered later upon a time. But the proxy can do simple TCP, UDP, SCTP stream forwarding. Okay, can do round robin TCP, UDP, and SCTP forwarding as well. Okay, so look at this here. In this image, you have a proxy in each node, and proxy. So whenever the traffic comes from the outside, proxy take it up and then resolve it with the help of the pod and then serve the purpose. Look at this here. This again, if you understand the proxy concept, again we'll discuss about the proxy in a little bit later. Trying to simplify here. So see here, requesting client from the outside, which is done on the IP table front of the node, and IP table decide where to transfer the traffic to pod 1, pod 2, pod 3. Now API server also send a request to proxy, and proxy again to API IP table. Okay, here you look at this. Human talk to API server, And etcd, look at this, API server talk to etcd, controller manager keep reporting back to the API server, scheduler also keep talking to the API server, and after that kubeproxy also keep talking to API server. Look at this, kubelet also keep talking to API server, but kubeproxy again talk to the IP tables, update the IP tables, and allocate the port. This one, kubelet talk to the Docker to create a containers and report back. Again, look at this different scenario here. Okay, so in the worker node, what are the components we have? Kubelet, which is the main Kubernetes agent. Container engine, it can be Docker or Rocket, in this case Docker. And kubeproxy, which is the Kubernetes networking services. So all this together, we call it a Kubernetes cluster. So in the node, in the cluster, you have a master node, we have a worker node. Master node, you have a Kubernetes, you have a API server, cluster stored, controller manager, scheduler. In the worker node, you have a kubelet, kubeproxy, and container runtime. So sum up, in the all the nodes, you have a kubelet, kubeproxy, and container runtime. So kubelet, which monitor API server for changes, responsible for pods lifecycle, means pods is managed by kubelet only. Reports node and pod state, also helps you to do some checks on pod, means pod liveliness and probes. Kubeproxy, which is basically network proxy IP table, implement services, routing traffic to the pod, and load balancing. Container runtime, basically you know that very well, download images and run containers. Container runtime interface, Docker, and many others. There are few more components we have in the cluster, but which we are not discussing later. We'll discuss third day. So now look at the overall architecture. There are different images I would like to show you to build the understanding about the Kubernetes architecture. Look at it. From the user interface, start from the left side. From the user interface, you can talk to the master through UI also, command line also. So we'll use command line today and tomorrow, and UI will use the last day. Inside the master, how this talk to each other, we have already discussed. But each worker talk to the master API server basically, and each worker you see here in the worker image, you see you have a kubelet, kubeproxy, and Docker, and then pod, you have it, pod 1, 2, 3. Inside a pod you have a container. You have 1 container, 2 container, 3 container. This is one of the architecture. Again, let's look at the architecture in a different angle also. Here this is something similar image. I'll just move on. Look at this image, is very interesting. It's a little bit refined, but again different contexts are there. Developer talk to API server. API server, if you see that, is keep talking to the etcd, and if you look at it very carefully, etcd is in a cluster itself. It's not storing everything in one thing. It's a cluster itself. But yeah, API server talk to the etcd. API server also talk to the controllers. API server also talk to the scheduler, which we discussed. That's called master. Now master API server talk to the kubelet in the worker node. Look at this arrow downside, and kubelet manages your worker node. Now if you see here, okay, kubelet manages your pod with the help of Docker, and other components also is there, which is basically network proxy. Network proxy, which assign the IP address to the pod, and some of the other things also. If you look at this from the outside perspective, end user who wants to access applications, they access the network proxy, and from the network proxy they transfer the request to the pod, container, basically pod containers. Look at this image, little bit different addition context. Okay, especially the worker node. If you look at this, look at the worker node very specifically. Kubelet, which talk to the each pod and containers. Kubeproxy also talk to the pod. Look at this kubeproxy arrow. Okay, so if you want to travel from the outside to access the application running inside a pod container, from the internet you talk to the kubeproxy basically. Yes, from the internet you talk to the kubeproxy, and kubeproxy transfer that request to the pod, mind it, and pod containers like that. Look at this image also, very interesting. From this image, if you look at it from the right side, you'll understand that. So here from the end user, you hit the load balancer. This load balancer is managed by cloud provider like AWS.
To watch our complete session, enroll for our premium membership. Click onto the join button and enroll yourself with the best suited option.
This is the external load balancer. From the external load balancer, you hit to the node. Mind it, I'll draw this picture a little bit later tomorrow also. So from end user, you hit the load balancer that's managed by cloud. Load balancer from you hit to the node, and the node you have a system services, container runtime, pod, and stuff like that. So overall, this is the architecture. And now see, we understood everything about the master component. We understood everything about the node component. Now time has come to understand the workstation, the laptop, the package which you are in a JSON. So that's the next topic. Okay.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the 3D99 plan, and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.